focus on what's going on indoors, because let me just tell you what, doesn't that just look a little angelic over here? Doesn't that just look a little angelic, this Charlie memorial? I love it. It gives me goosebumps. Hey, I want to say thank you for allowing us to sponsor this tour. Tonight's the last night of this leg of the tour. It's been quite an event to put on and be a part of. So I want to say thank you to our friends at Turning Point for allowing us the opportunity to be here and do what we do, and in support of their mission, which we love and support completely. So let me tell you a little bit about who we are and why we would do such a thing, and why Charlie liked Y-Refi. What is it about Y-Refi that Charlie enjoys? So Y-Refi, we are in the business of helping borrowers, students that have distressed student loans. Okay, as you heard on the video, student loans are a massive problem in this country. I think we can probably agree that the reason the country has the debt problem that we have is the government and out of control spending. And that's where we're at today, $1.8 trillion in student loan debt. It's completely out of control. The only way to get the student loan problem, among other problems, out of this situation is to get the government out of the lending business. Who agrees? Yep. Got to get the government out of the lending business. Return it to the private markets where it belongs. If we've learned anything in this country, is that capitalism fixes problems. So if we get this back to the government, thank you. Yeah, you get this out of the government's hand, you put it back in the capital markets, and I guarantee you the problems are going to get solved, and they're going to get solved quickly. That is what Y-Refi does. My partner and I founded this company because what we discovered is there's 45 million Americans with student loan debt, okay? And we came up with a way to help borrowers who were simply looking for a way to pay their debt back with dignity. We came up with a way to give them that. The payments that we charge our borrowers are roughly 50% of what they're being asked to pay today. So if you have a problem with your student loans, if you're in distress, look us up at yrefi.com. Check us out. Here's something you might want to know. About 70% of student loans have co-borrowers. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, they may be co-signed on those loans selflessly, thinking, hey, my child or grandchild, they've got this dream, they want to grow, they want to have a better life, and I'm going to co-sign that loan. And they only find out that there's a problem once you're in distress. It's embarrassing, it's frustrating, it's scary. We've heard lots of stories. What I want to tell you about Y-Refi is when you call, here's some really cool parts. When you call, you're not going to get a phone tree. You're going to talk to a human being right in Phoenix, Arizona. Kind of a big deal. When you call, we want to hear your story. We understand that these things happened. We want to understand why and help you get out of that situation. We'll develop a plan that works just for you, okay? Now, on that note, this is the other cool part of bringing capitalism and innovation and entrepreneurship to the table in today's world. What we do, my partner and I, we decided, you know what, we're not going to let Wall Street or institutional groups, institutional capital, fund our company. So we raise all of our capital directly through what's called an accredited investor. People just like you looking for a way to help with the Y-Refi mission. So if you want to learn more about the Y-Refi mission and understand how you can potentially invest, earn some pretty nice returns, helping people get out of debt, please look us up at investyrefi.com. Okay, you're not here to watch me. You're here to see some very cool people. I've been backstage having some really fun conversations. Who's here to see Frank Turek? Rob Schneider, right? All right. So I'm gonna wrap up here. Oh yeah, there's that guy Joe Bob. Who's here to see Joe Bob? Oh, come on, give it up for Joe Bob. I've been on tour with him for a while, and he's funny. He's going to come out and get you going. So I'm going to just say this. Hey, God bless America. God bless you. God bless the people outside. They're just causing great attraction to what we're doing here. They don't even realize that they're furthering the motion by just showing up. So thank you. We're all over the TV and everything. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm going to wrap up by saying, let's get the party started. Who's ready to rock and roll here? All right, let's do this.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem and welcome to the stage Mason Romero. Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
That's too good. Joe Bob, that's too good.
I got to tour with Charlie as his opening act for the last 3 years. I think initially some people might have found it odd that Charlie Kirk was bringing a comedian on the road with him, but also I don't think people realized how much Charlie loved to laugh. Mark Twain once said, "The human race has only one really effective weapon, and that's laughter." And even though he was known for his logic and reason, nobody understood the power of laughter better than Charlie.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome comedian, Turning Point contributor, and host of Turning Point Tonight,
Joe Bob.
Joe Bob.
Joe Bob.
Joe Bob.
Joe Bob. Joe Bob. Joe Bob. Joe Bob.
Joe Bob.
What is going on, Berkeley? Hey, we can do better than that. What is going on, Berkeley? Yeah. How about a round of applause for all of you for making it in here? Yeah. If only we had this kind of security at the border. But seriously, I'm not actually kidding. Guys, so I'm in a weird position, I'll be honest with you, and being completely frank. I used to go up and make, honestly, trans jokes a lot in front of Charlie, and he'd come up and, lay the truth on people. My job was kind of like to loosen people up a little bit. Actually, it was at Berkeley where I think Charlie recognized, the need for that. He was a funny guy. We were up in another room, I forget where it was, here on campus, but he made a hilarious joke that nobody laughed at. He said, if you're gay in Gaza, they'll give you a flying lesson off the nearest roof. And it went straight over people's heads. So he's like, I think I need somebody to, rile people up a little bit so they can recognize when I'm actually making a joke. But it honestly feels a little odd doing that. Maybe we'll get to a little bit of humor in a little bit, but I think first things first, I'd like to start off, not sure how many people it would apply to here, but tomorrow being Veterans Day, if you served in our U.S. military in any capacity and are a veteran, I would love for you to stand up so we can give you all recognition. Thank you all so much for everything that you do, everything that you've sacrificed, everything that your family has sacrificed. And that goes for all of our veterans and also all of our fantastic security. I know it was a little bit difficult getting in here, but one more round of applause for all of the brave men and women that keep us safe at these events. So like, on a more serious note, you kind of wonder, why is Turning Point going to Berkeley? Of all places, Berkeley? For me, free speech. For me, it's because I love the Bay Area. I just wish the Bay Area loved itself enough to not continually keep lighting itself on fire. Because ironically enough, the Bay Area was where the free speech movement effectively started, and also randomly started the cancel culture movement, which is weird, to say the least. But we've all seen what's happened with the liberal policies that have gone on here. You see crime, you see homelessness. I kid you not, I wasn't planning on pulling this picture up this immediately. I took this photo, can we pull that up? On the BART over here. I know, I risked my life taking the BART. People literally shooting up in the row behind me. That is no way to run a society in any way, shape, or form. But it continues to happen here. And I'll say this, if you live in an area that bans plastic straws but not fentanyl, you are doing something drastically wrong. This is better? All right. And the reason we keep coming to these... It's not better. Oh, there we go. It's George Soros. The reason we keep coming back to places like this is because despite all of the craziness, despite all the liberal policies, we believe that the Bay Area can be saved. Yes? Yeah. We need more spaces of courage, not more safe spaces. And all of you guys showed a great amount of courage showing up tonight. So thank you guys again. I know I've made you guys applaud quite a bit, but I guess into the more lighthearted stuff, especially here in the Bay Area. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi announced her retirement last week. Now, hold on, I recognize that we are cheering in this room, but I can't help but feel for our liberal friends. They have lost an important, powerful, and influential investment advisor. She said that this is not the end of her political career. It is simply the end of federally mandated financial disclosures. I was digging into Nancy a little bit, and in 2005, there was a resolution in Congress to whether or not they would allow the 10 Commandments to be posted in public buildings. And even though Nancy was actually there when Moses descended from Sinai, she still voted no. I am not a political aficionado. However, if you agree with Satan, it's maybe not the best political approach to take. Now, I'm not calling Nancy Pelosi the devil, right? I'm not saying that Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi is the devil. However, if Satan was in Congress, the roll call vote for that bill would have been the representative from hell. And he would go, it's actually pronounced Minneapolis. But I actually agree with Nancy on this one. She's totally squared away. She's got this covered. Before I leave, I want to tell you a very, very quick story about Charlie that happened a couple months ago. And I've told this a couple different times, but I feel like it's fun and appropriate for this setting. I'm known as kind of the in-house smartass. In other words, the liability. I tend to get the brand in trouble quite a bit. Like for example, sometimes on Instagram, just for my own fun, I'll scroll through and find the LGBTQ hashtag. and I'll comment, "That's gay." And people will get all upset. They'll be like, "There's nothing gay about this photo." And I'll comment back, "It's a picture of Governor Newsom." So to give you some context, that's the kind of guy I am. Do we all remember the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad? Yeah. So at about that time, there was a bunch of libs posting a bunch of crazy stuff on the internet that, "We're white supremacists, you're fascists." They put us in a very, very difficult position of having to defend the idea that Sydney Sweeney is hot. Real tough one there, guys. But there was a video that I feel like I had to respond to because it was so ridiculous and so absurd. So I recorded this video. I didn't think anything of it. I was going to post it on my Instagram a couple hours later. But there's a producer at Turning Point that doesn't have Instagram, so I wanted to send it to him because I knew he'd like the joke. And he texted back and said, "Bro, this is hilarious. Also, do not post that." And it turns out he sent it to his boss. She sent it to her boss, and ultimately it made it to Charlie. This joke that I wasn't thinking anything of made it all the way to the top. And had I known, I would have just sent it to him myself. So here was the joke. It was a response to this girl who happened to be black. She was outside of an American Eagle store, and the person recording the video said, "Hey, do you want to go in that store?" And she turned around all sassy, "I can't go in there because I'm black." It's a ridiculous and absurd thing to say. So I responded with equal absurdity. I said, "She might be right. I don't think American Eagle accepts EBT." Hey. What she said was worse, by the way. And had it been a white girl saying, "I can't eat chicken and waffles because I'm white," I would have been like, "Yeah, we know, Christina, you have a gluten allergy." So the basis of it was I was responding absurdly to something absurd. That made it all the way to Charlie, and Charlie texted back, "Do it." Because that's the kind of guy he was. But it actually didn't stop there. Some of the higher ups at Turning Point were still a little afraid of that. And they were like, you need to put a disclaimer on this. And I was like, "A disclaimer?" They're like, "Yeah, we just want to make sure everybody knows it's a joke." And I said, "Really, a disclaimer? That's gay." So I didn't want to put a disclaimer. So I texted back to the group chat that was now started. How about this disclaimer? Disclaimer. Charlie Kirk himself wrote this joke, but he made me say it because I'm a brown. And Charlie texted back, "Perfect." Guys, but here's the thing. This is why we're all here. Because I know I'm joking. You know we're joking. At the end of the day, you need to be able to say what you want to say in this country, regardless of whether or not some blue hair who's protesting outside says that you can't, yes? So guys, thank you so much for coming to this event. You're going to have a fantastic time. All of the people coming up are firm.
I want to thank all of the incredible volunteers that we have today, all the student volunteers who took their day. We also have an amazing Bay Area field representative, Annette Lees. And of course, thank you to the rest of the Turning Point staff and Turning Point USA themselves, who have supported us this entire way through, been through all of the ups and downs, and we're just so thankful to have everyone. And now, with that being said, I'd like to offer a few moments of silence for Charlie Kirk. Two months from this day, we witnessed one of the most tragic events in modern history, when a bullet soared through the air and an assassin took the life of a courageous man. The sad truth is, the left are not your friends. They will mock and dehumanize you just so they can laugh at your corpse. all while cheering in the name of social justice. And that's why for this event, you've seen protesters and posters outside dubbing us as fascist, set out with noisemakers, and just very blatantly here to disrupt our event. And to all those protesters outside, I have one thing to say. It is clear to us which side is winning when your side becomes the violent agitators. When you try to win with force and not through reason, you have lost. And the reality is they would never come in and ask a question. They're not trying to win honestly. They have already lost the intellectual battle. Their goal is to disturb the crowd, silence those who disagree, and destroy any ounce of conservatism that they can get their filthy paws on. But you know what? They are not going to stop us. They are not going to stop us because tonight we are here to carry on Charlie Kirk's beautiful legacy. We are here to show the world why we love America, why we love God, to turn this place into a society that our kids can feel happy raising kids of their own someday. We are here to show that the true lunacy of the left is that they thought they could silence Charlie Kirk by killing him. Because tonight, we are Charlie Kirk. We are the movement that he created, and we are the fire that lights the flame of the fight. So now let's make Charlie Kirk proud. What do you say? Charlie Kirk, I love you, buddy. Now I want everyone, there's rally posters on your chairs of Charlie Kirk. I want everyone to raise them up and cheer for Charlie. Charlie Kirk! Charlie Kirk! Now, it is my great honor to invite these two beautiful guest speakers that we have tonight, Frank Turek and Rob Schneider. They will be with us in just a moment.
Please welcome Frank Turek.
Good evening, UC Berkeley. Wow, they wouldn't let everybody in now, would they? But the important people are here, and I want to start by asking you a question, and that is, where were you 2 months ago today when you heard Charlie had been shot? You know where you were, and you know what you were doing, because that is a life-changing event. As we were driving over to the venue that morning, Charlie got some footage, drone footage, over the university. It was about an hour before we were supposed to start, and he said, hey, take a look at this. There were thousands of people there an hour in advance. And I said to him, Charlie, I don't like this. There's too many buildings around here. But he just shrugged it off, because Charlie knew that in order to love people, you have to make yourself somewhat vulnerable. You can't be completely secure all the time. And so Charlie said, we're going through with this. And I'll never forget when we were walking in, and it was a Trump rally times 2. I mean, people were screaming. They were just cheering, USA, USA. You've seen some of the video. And he kind of looked over and he said, welcome to the big leagues. And he started tossing hats, and Angel back here gave me a row of hats. And so I was like, okay, I start tossing hats. We're tossing hats, and then Charlie sits down to start answering questions, and someone said, I think it was Angel, he said, hey, do you want a hat? I said, yeah, I guess it's kind of hot, I'll put a hat on. And somehow that meant I was signaling the shooter later. You may have seen that crazy conspiracy theory out there. Absolute madness, because we all know somebody had to signal the shooter to say, hey, that's Charlie over there. The internet is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. And when that shot rang out, and we got him in the car, his eyes were fixed. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking right past me into eternity. He was absent from the body, present with the Lord. But of course, we had to try to do everything we could to save him, and I'm telling you, his security team was amazing. And those gentlemen are here tonight. There's one of them. There's Justin right there. Brian is back there. Dan was there. Rick was there. They did what they were supposed to do. And when this investigation's over and all this conspiracy nonsense is over, you're going to see that they did their job and they did it well. It wasn't their jurisdiction. It wasn't their jurisdiction to handle the roofs. That was someone else, and they blew it. It was Butler, PA all over again. But as we sit here, we're kind of asking ourselves, well, some say that God spared President Trump. Why didn't he spare Charlie Kirk? Maybe because there is no God, some will say. Why would he allow such an evil thing to occur? Does evil mean there is no God? Well, actually, the exact opposite is true. About a year ago, our mutual friend James Lindsay, who is an agnostic atheist, texted Charlie, and he said, Charlie, I've been looking at what's gone on in the communist countries in the 20th century. They killed 100 million of their own citizens. I'm starting to believe in Satan. And Charlie texted back 4 words. If Satan, then God. Now, what did he mean by that? What he meant was evil is not a thing in itself. It's a lack in a good thing. Evil is like cancer. If you take all the cancer out of a good body, you got a better body. What happens if you take all the body out of the cancer? You got nothing. Evil is like rust in a car. If you take all the rust out of a car, you got a better car. What happens if you take all the car out of the rust? You got a Pinto. You got to be old enough to get that. In other words, evil's not a thing in itself. It's a lack in a good thing. So in order for evil to exist, good must exist. But in order for good to exist, God must exist, because what we mean by good is God's nature. If there is no God, then there is no good, which means there are no rights and there is no justice. You know, Berkeley's famous for free speech and rights, and there's too much injustice out there, yet many of the people outside of this room protesting are atheists. Do you know there's no way to justify good or evil unless God exists? Otherwise, it's just your opinion. Everything's just your opinion. And our founders knew this. Thomas Jefferson said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal and endowed by their government. No, he didn't say that. Endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that governments are instituted among men to secure these rights. Government doesn't give you rights. Government simply secures the rights you already have, and if the government doesn't do that, then according to Jefferson and the founders, the people have a right to a new government. So evil does not disprove God. It may prove there's a devil out there, but it can't disprove God, because there'd be no such thing as evil unless there was good, and there'd be no such thing as good unless God existed. Now, we still can ask the question, well, God, why did God allow this particular evil to occur? I had a militant atheist once at Michigan State ask me this question. He said, if there is a good God, why doesn't he stop all the evil in the world? And I said, sir, that is an excellent question. Maybe because if he did, he might start with you and me, because we do evil every day. You ever notice we start complaining about evil, we always start complaining about somebody else doing it? It's like, hey, God, why don't you stop him? God, why don't you stop her? God, why don't you stop the shooter? God, why don't you stop Hitler? God, why don't you stop... Why do we never say, God, why don't you stop me? Ladies and gentlemen, if God were to stop evil at midnight tonight, would you still be alive at 12:01? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be alive. God doesn't stop evil right now because he gives us free choice. Why does he give us free choice? So we can love. You can't love without free choice. Love by definition requires freedom. So God gives us free choice. The problem is we can use our free choice to do evil like the shooter did. But can any good come from that? The Bible talks a lot about this. We don't have time to get into all the details. But the Bible talks about the fact that testing produces patience, and patience produces character, and tribulation leads to hope. And it says all things work together for good to those that love God and are called according to his purpose, to be conformed to the image of his Son. Doesn't say all things are good. There's a lot of evil things out there, but according to God, good things can come from evil, especially to people who are called according to his purpose. And one of the ways that you become more like Jesus is through evil. Man, if you get everything you want every time, you don't become like Jesus, you become a me monster. You need some obstacles in your way if you're going to become more like Jesus. You need difficulty. You need people to say no. What do we say about kids that get everything they want? They're spoiled. What's spoiled about them? Their character. You want to ruin a kid? Give the kid everything he or she wants. You will ruin them. You need difficulty in your life, and that's what evil does. Sometimes good comes from evil, and we'll never see it. Why is that? Well, there's something out there known as the ripple effect. What's the ripple effect? The ripple effect is that every single thing that happens here ripples forward to affect trillions of other events and billions of people. Most of the time you can't see the ripple effect, but there's actually a story in the Bible that talks about this. This is Joseph in the Old Testament. You guys remember Joseph in the Old Testament? He's sold into slavery by his brothers into Egypt, and he's treated horribly when he gets there. He's falsely accused. He's in prison. Then he interprets a dream for the Pharaoh, and suddenly he's the number 2 guy in all of Egypt, and he puts a whole bunch of grain aside because he knows a famine's coming. Then the very brothers that sold him into slavery leave Israel because there's a famine. They come to Egypt, and Joseph recognizes them. And what does Joseph say when he recognizes them? You dirty rats, you're going to pay for what you did to me. No. What does he say? What you meant for evil, God meant for good, the saving of many lives. The ripple effect. The evil that they did years ago rippled forward to help them later. Most of the time you can't see the ripple effect, but sometimes you can. And you know, we didn't see a ripple, we saw a tsunami after Charlie was brutally murdered. There has never been a time in history where the President of the United States and nearly all of his cabinet and then some other people, friends of Charlie, preached the gospel to 100 million people. I submit to you, if Charlie were here today and we were to say, hey, Charlie, 100 people would come to faith if you give your life right now. Will you do it? He'd say, that's what my life's about already. Yeah, I do it. Now, he wouldn't want to leave Eric and the kids, but that's what his life was about already. Well, how about millions that have come to Christ? I'm getting emails from people in foreign countries like Sweden. I got an email from a lady who said, I'm an atheist my whole life. Now I'm a Christian because of Charlie Kirk. Because one man had the courage to live his faith boldly, to love people enough to put himself in harm's way to reach out to them. Because we know that a fascist tactic is to hand the microphone to your opponent and say whatever you want, make your case. The very people that are claiming he's a fascist are the fascists. Now, although we can't always see the ripples, we can trust God for them. Good has come and will come. And one of the greatest ripples of all time happened to the only completely innocent person ever, and that was Jesus of Nazareth. He was brutally murdered, put on a cross, so he could take our punishment upon himself. That great evil rippled forward to the greatest good of all time. We can now be reconciled to an infinitely just God because Jesus took our punishment upon himself. Now, as we know, the folks here at Berkeley are big into justice, as I mentioned earlier. But you know, there is no justice unless God exists. There are no rights unless God exists. And so, Jesus is the one that is the just judge. He's going to judge the living and the dead. And let me ask you a question. Maybe you're not a Christian, but you love Turning Point. Do you want to be judged by an infinitely just being? I don't want to be judged by an infinitely just being because I haven't been infinitely just. I'm going to be punished if that's the case. I don't want justice, I want grace. And Christianity is the only worldview where you get grace. You trust in what Jesus has done, and then you're not only forgiven, you're given his righteousness. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the greatest story ever told, and it's true. 9 days before he died, Charlie tweeted out, the resurrection is an historical fact. I know some of you are probably thinking, well, how do you know it's an historical fact? I mean, you're getting that from the Bible? I mean, that was written down by Christians. No, it wasn't. Do you know all the New Testament documents were written down by Jews? They weren't Christians. They became Christians because they witnessed something they didn't expect. These people thought they were God's chosen people, and they didn't think that one guy could claim to be God. That was blasphemy. And they didn't think that one guy would rise from the dead. They knew we'd all rise from the dead at the end of time because Daniel and Isaiah talk about that. They didn't think any of this was possible. And yet after denying Jesus and running away during the crucifixion, by the way, do you think they'd make that up if that was true? I mean, if it wasn't true? You think they say they ran away like a bunch of sissy pants men while the women were the brave ones that went down and discovered the empty tomb? Who would make that up? And why would they make it up? To get themselves kicked out of the synagogue and then beaten, tortured, and killed? This is not a list of perks. We're going to start a new religion. We are? Yeah. What's it going to get us? Well, first we'll get kicked out of the synagogue and then we'll get beaten, tortured, and killed. Well, sign me up. What a great idea. No, they're not making this up. And they would never say the women were the first witnesses. I mean, who wrote the New Testament documents down? Men. Now, what man is going to say that he was hiding for fear of the Jews while the women went down and discovered the empty tomb? Would any man in here invent that? No. If I was making it up, I'd make myself look good. I'd write down, let's see, we marched right down there and we overpowered that elite Roman guard. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. And then we saw Jesus who congratulated us on our great faith. And then we went and comforted the trembling women. I would never say it was Mr. Sissy Pants. No, by the way, why would you never say the women were the first witnesses in that culture? because a woman's testimony was not considered on par with that of a man. So if you're making up the New Testament story, you'd only have the men be the first witnesses. Yet all 4 Gospels say the women were the first witnesses, which is telling us what? They really were. I actually had a lady come up to me once. No, it was a guy actually. No, it was a lady. There's two people. A lady came up to me at university many years ago, and she said, I know why Jesus appeared to the women first. I said, why? And she said, because he wanted to get the story out. I said, that is an excellent point. I hadn't thought of that, because ladies, when your man comes home from work, does he say much? There could have been a nuclear explosion down at the plant. He's not going to tell you. You'll see it on the news before you hear it from him. You'll be watching the news going, hey, hon, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. The nuke blew up. I've been hot for 3 days. What's for dinner? And this guy at University of Cincinnati came up to me and he said, you think that's bad? He said, my buddy was on a plane, a private plane, just he and the pilot. And the pilot died. And my friend didn't know how to land the plane. So he said, just like in the movies, the tower talked him down. When he went home that night, his wife said, how was your day, dear? He said, same old, same old. This is not a made-up story, ladies and gentlemen. And then they went and died for this. Why would they do that? They wouldn't. If you're going to say they made this up, you got to come up with some sort of explanation that has evidence behind it. You notice there's a lot of counter explanations to Charlie's murder, and none of it has any evidence behind it. It's all speculation. You can speculate about anything as to what happened to Jesus. You can say aliens took his body. But you know what the real truth is? Those disciples went to their deaths saying he had risen from the dead. And the disciples didn't get the big 3 that normally encourage people to lie. They didn't get sex. They didn't get money. They didn't get power. All they got was persecution. Yet they said it was true. Why would they do this? I am never going to forget that day, and I know you are not going to forget it either, 2 months ago. I'm never going to forget Charlie's lifeless eyes looking back right past me in that car. It's a life-changing event. Do you know what else would be a life-changing event? A man that predicted and accomplished his own resurrection from the dead. No one would invent that and go through the torture of martyrdom unless it happened. So Charlie would want you to know today, in fact, the last walk we took, we used to take these walks when I was in Phoenix, late at night through Phoenix, and we would just talk about all these issues because he wanted to learn more about how to defend the faith. And the last walk we took was Monday night before he was murdered Wednesday. And one of the biggest issues we talked about was the resurrection. Charlie wants you to know that he's in heaven right now and will be physically resurrected, and so will you. The only question is, are you going to be resurrected up or are you going to be resurrected down? Charlie Kirk is in heaven right now, not because he gave his life for his Savior. Charlie Kirk is in heaven right now because his Savior gave his life for Charlie Kirk.
My name is Charlie Kirk, and I love America because I love talking with people I disagree with.
What have you done for your country?
started an organization that's now on 1,000+ campuses to save the greatest culture and country ever to exist.
Our family's divided. We're divided the same way the nation is divided. Will anything ever be remedied? A nation divided against itself will not stand, neither will a family divided against itself.
Why do you think your son is conservative? You as a father should listen to your son.
I used to be, at one point, on my father's side. Upon doing my own research and seeing things firsthand, I've switched sides. We talk every day about politics to the point where it's divided us.
Father-son divide is more important than politics. Really try to come down at what generational perspective do they have. Never let politics get in the way of the beautiful relationship between father and son.
And my question for you is, do you have any hate against the LGBT community?
How could I hate that which I have a heart for? I might not agree for some of the lifestyle choices that some people make, but of course not. And if someone said, Charlie, what's your view on marriage? I say, I believe marriage is between one man and one woman. Do I have hate in my heart for somebody that doesn't choose the lifestyle that I believe that God laid out in the scriptures? Of course not.
Yeah. What's this big for?
I go around universities and have challenging conversations because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens. Okay. You could see that happen all across the world.
What motivates you to come out here?
Well, because I love talking to people I disagree with. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity.
First, I just want to say I don't agree with you on a lot of stuff, but I really respect, and I think you don't agree with me on a lot of stuff, but I really respect that you'll have a dialogue. I think one of the big problems in this country right now is, like, people can't have a dialogue, and people, like, don't even know how to, like, have a dialogue and use logic and, like, have an actual argument like you do. So how do we improve that as a country? How do you think we get more people that can argue, like, on both sides of the aisle?
I think this event is a great example of it, right? I think that this event is, we need to have differing opinions. We need to have people that don't share the same worldview and see which one is better and try to find common bond. You should have your own discussions like this every day. You should try to model it and try to have, back and forth, and that's what makes the country strong and great. Civil dialogue.
Hi, I'm Charlie Kirk.
I'm Rob Schneider.
And today, what are we doing?
Well, you can do it.
You can do it! Let's go talk to some kids.
Let's go talk to some voters.
Let's get these voters voting. Right now. We'll see you in a bit.
Thank you.
Please welcome Rob Schneider.
You can do it, Berkeley! All night long. Well, thank you. I'd like to thank Antifa for the welcoming that they gave me tonight. It was beautiful. I mean, they didn't have to bring, fireworks, but I appreciate it, because I know that's spending money, and they didn't have to dye their hair pink either for that, but I appreciate it. I am proudly from the Bay Area. I'm right here. I'm your neighbor. I am your neighbor, and I love you. And I love this. I love Berkeley, and I mean that. I love the history of Berkeley, and I believe that what is happening now, I think, is a blip, and it is a intolerant blip, and is hopeful. I have this whole speech thing I'm going to talk about and a couple of dumb jokes, but we are in an age of emotion. When historians look back and go, what happened, and what was that all about? And it was because if we give in to our emotions and that desire, then we can. If you give in to those desires and those passions, if you use that before your sense of reason and rationality and logic, then you can be manipulated, like the people outside this building right now. They're coming not from a place of rationality. They're coming from a place of emotion. And that's tough. Because what I wanted to ask you, and what the theme of this whole thing I was writing was this. First of all, I want to tell you, Charlie and I talked in August, and I said, "Congratulations, Charlie." And he said, "What?" I said, "You've made it." And he said, he started laughing. And I said, "Well, South Park just made fun of you." And I said, "They did a great job on your head." Charlie had a different head. You know what I'm talking about. Not that he wasn't handsome, Erica. I didn't mean that at all. He was very handsome. However, he had a head that was worthy of South Park. And you know what he did and how funny that man was
He took that picture and put it on his social media as Charlie Kirk, and that was a picture of him on South.
Perfect.
And I really respect that. He had a good sense of humor. I didn't know what to make of Charlie Kirk, to be honest with you, when I first met him a few years back. I said, who is this 29-year-old? What's behind all this? I don't get it.
What you want to say in this country regardless.
And then slowly, I realized what he was really wanted to empower.
So guys,
this is your country.
Have a fantastic time.
No, people say that, but I mean it, and he meant it. This is your country, and we have to make sure that you don't let the excesses of my generation ruin your opportunity to buy a home, to have free speech, and to live your life in the freest and the greatest experiment in human history, the United States of America. Now, Charlie's murder exposed a part of an ugliness that I have not seen. And maybe I didn't want to see, and it's been there a while. But a tribal nature where people could celebrate and actually go, this death, because it's not in our tribe. That tribalness, that would eliminate someone's compassion and their empathy for a young man, a young father and a young husband, murdered in cold blood in front of his children. That there can be no compassion, that there would be no empathy from these group of people, says something about more than our body politic. It says something that there is a dis-ease. And we have to be aware of that, and we have to work on healing that. How do we go about that? Well, I would just say to the people outside, and this was the thrust of the thing I wrote before I realized it's not as good as what I was trying to go for. The most important question I could ask everybody in this room, and the most important question that you could ask yourselves, and the most important, but the people outside with the poof of pink hair or whatever's happening out there, what do you want? The most important question, what do you want? What do you really want? What do you want from society, for yourself, for your family, from your university here at Berkeley, from your job, from your government? I want you to really think about it, what it is that you want. That is the most important question you will face. Now, will America be a temporary experiment in freedom and human history, and the 117 billion people who've been alive since the beginning, according to science, where freedom for the individual was enjoyed by only a relatively few people for a brief 249 years before society returned to another form of feudalism and slavery? I hope not. But it is not guaranteed. When they say eternal vigilance, that means we must be awake, we must be aware, and we must fight for it. And in every city in America, you are going to see military cemeteries. People say, oh, Rob, you sacrificed your comedy career. I don't give a crap about Deuce Bigalow 4, 5, and 6. I don't care. Here's what I care about. That's a huge bitch. Who cares? And by the way, Disney made that movie. That'll never happen again. Disney will never do another movie where somebody goes, ball hair, scrotum liquor. That'll never happen again. Maybe for the right reason. But this freedom, we must maintain. Just go look. Forget about the sacrifices. You got to look at the sacrifices. Just go by. I was at the Italian-American cemetery in Italy 2 summers ago, and I saw 19, 20, 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds, 30-year-olds, American military service who gave the last measure of devotion for this freedom, for our freedom. They fought and died for it. They made the ultimate sacrifice. Now, Charlie died for conversation. Martin Luther King died for sanitation workers in Memphis so that they and their families could live a decent life, so that they could have a chance to make a living wage. They weren't asking to be rich. They weren't asking to be billionaires. There was no such thing back then. There is now. We actually have a trillionaire now. But that's the thing that I would say to the people outside protesting and not letting people in, and the assholes at this university for making it so difficult for people to get in and eliminating tickets. Let me tell you, Berkeley, shame on you, Berkeley. Shame on you. The regents, the academics here, you should fight for free speech. If free speech means anything, it's the right for me to say something that pisses you off, if it means anything. Free speech is all speech. It's the hateful stuff. Because if you can say, well, hate speech, well, no, it's not. Well, then who gets to define hate speech? That is a term to use to stop your speech from saying something that you don't like or the government doesn't like. And we're going to bring up one of my good friends who's going to come up here and talk about what's happening in England right now. And he's going to tell you how many people have been arrested for tweets. So we'll have that in a minute. So will America continue to be the greatest experiment in freedom the history has ever known? What do we want? You want a free society? Okay, how free do you want it? How free do you want it? Do you want it to be no rules and just absolute? Then it's chaos. You don't want that. But do you want too many rules? All rules to control us all, then that's tyranny. We don't want that. We want a mess. Not a crazy mess, but a mess. But that is requiring good faith actors to come in and not manipulate the process like those goons outside. They are bad faith actors. They do not care about discourse. They could have come in and they could have asked me some questions about, the hot chick or whatever movie I've ever made. They could have asked me, but they didn't, because they don't want discourse, because they don't have an argument. What they have is anger, and they have grievance, and they have envy. These are bad faith actors. These people don't want to discuss anything. They want to tear down Western civilization because they have grievance. And that's what happened. That's all woke is. All woke is simply this. Communism redressed as some sort of manners, renamed and repackaged because they knew, the communists knew in the second Chinese Revolution in 1966, the Cultural Revolution, they knew that communism was never going to take hold from the worker, because in capitalism in the United States of America, workers know, and your parents and your grandparents knew, that if you work your ass off, your life's going to be better. Your children's life's going to be better. They knew that. They knew. So, what did they do? They infiltrated academia. They got in and they said, we're going to get in there. We're going to use people who have grievances, who want to destroy Western civilization. And that is a fact. And that is happening. And we got to be aware of it so we can fight it. So we can go against that. And we have to ask ourselves, okay, what do we want? Are we really thinking? Are those people really thinking for themselves? Are their thoughts their own? Or are they indoctrinated into a closed system of thought where they think they're thinking for themselves, but they're just regurgitating someone else's talking points? They're indoctrinated into a liberal system of thought policing themselves. These people are slaves, thought slaves, fighting to maintain their own enslavement. And those are the best slaves, because they don't even know they're slaves. Those are the best. So, okay, what do we want? What is this thing? Now, here in Western culture is worth saving. It's Rome, it's Paris, it's San Francisco, the good parts, not the parts where the poop map is. The good parts. You're talking about United States. This is a country and all its imperfections. You can be a billionaire in this country. It's possible. It is possible. No matter what color your skin is. Doesn't matter. Oprah's a billionaire. Tiger Woods is a billionaire, so it's possible. It happens. We have an infrastructure. We got roads. We got hospitals. We have electricity. You go to the Philippines, electricity stops right outside Manila. Not here in the United States. This country supports it. And Western civilization and all its successes is worth saving. And it is under attack. Now let's talk about what it is you want. Because here's the problem with Western civilization and culture and the idea, because you can get swept up into that too, into the monetary kind of thing and worry. Because there's this thing about, well, we're missing our life. And I would just say, I would be conscious from someone who's made this mistake. There's this idea, Alan Watts talks about this. There is this idea that, okay, I'm going to get to this place, and then I'm going to start enjoying my life. I'm going to get to the first, but first I got to get the right grades, and then I got to get, and then it's going to start coming. Then I'm going to get into the right university, Berkeley. I'm going to get in there, and then from Berkeley, and then I got to get the right grades, and as soon as then it's going to start coming, and then I got to get the right internship, and when I get out of there, then I'm going to get from that internship, then I'm going to get a job, and then it's going to start coming, and then from that job I got to get a certain amount of money, and then I got to move into the right house and get the right wife, and then we're going to have some, and then we get the kids, and the kids got to go to the right school, and it's like, okay, this is happening, this is coming, pretty soon I'm going to get to that place, whatever, and then you get a promotion, and go, okay, it's almost there, now I got the promotion, and then you wake up and you're 40, and you go, what the fuck happened? So what is it? We have this problem, is that we are looking for the answer, we're looking for the thing, and when you peel back, you look at an onion, you peel back one onion, trying to find the thing, you peel back one piece of the onion, and then there's another peel, and you peel that one, and you're trying to find the thing, and you peel that, you peel that, you peel that, you peel that, and pretty soon it's gone. You go, what the hell happened? Well, the thing is the onion itself. That's the thing. If you have a foundational belief in God, there is nothing this world can do to you. Nothing. Nothing. You will have that. And God could take away your family. He could bring you another family. It's unbelievable. You look at the Bible and go, oh, how could people have put up with that? How did Job go like, okay, yeah, I'll get another family. Thank you, God. Don't worry, I'm not going to worry about it. What? We'd all freak out. I'd freak out. Now, be careful that the thing you think you want may end up being the thing you loathe. Much better to live your life doing something you love and make less money than spending your life doing something you hate. If we are going to have a vibrant society and continue to be the largest economy, the most technologically advanced society in the world, we must protect free speech and debate. We cannot afford to continue people having beliefs persist that are not subject to facts or logic or empirical evidence. And anyone who presents empirical evidence to the contrary gets shut down, censored, and subject to violence on the university campus. This has to stop. Now, we must be evidence and logic based. When we, as American author Thomas Sowell said, when we silence opposing views, we threaten the very fabric of a free society. When we threaten with violence the minority of people who think differently and have different views, our freedom shrinks and our ability to create and innovate is greatly reduced. In this case, a society either destroys freedom or itself. We must create the conditions to give you the potential to get what it is that you want. Now, President Franklin Roosevelt believed in the goodness of the American people. He trusted them. He believed in an informed citizenry will always make the right decision. But that isn't happening now. We're being manipulated by social media, by politicians who are appealing to your passion, to the desires, to your hatred, to just whip you into that frenzy. And we have to be aware of that and hopefully move as far away from that as we can. If we trigger the public's desires like they want to do, then they can get away with any atrocity, and they can make us do things that are against our best interests. We are constantly manipulated all the time. So again, I ask you, what do you want? Like Berkeley claims to be a liberal town. They claim to want affordable housing. They have vacant lots that they could build on, but they always get stopped. Why? Because they want affordability, just not in our backyard. But we need you to be stakeholders in the American dream. And we need this dream to be accessible to you so that you can afford a home. And we have to stop the speculation, and Charlie Kirk and I talked about this. We must, the Trump administration, every administration moving forward must stop the speculation of these giant companies like BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard from buying all these single-family homes, speculating on it. And then they do something else. They'll raise the price and they'll buy it themselves, and then all the homes in the neighborhood are that price. This is antitrust. This must be stopped. Yeah. Now, We need wages to go up. We need productivity. We need skilled workers. You want to be a millionaire? The fastest way to be a millionaire right now, sorry, it's not your political science degree. It's being a plumber. Be a craftsman. They're not going to be able to fix your toilet with AI. Trust me. If you have a group of plumbers, you're going to be the fastest to a millionaire of anybody you graduate with. Be a welder. Unbelievable. You get a 6-figure salary to start. Now we need the Biden administration with this massive immigration. We imported poverty. People who do drywall and construction now have to compete with 12 other guys who are willing to do the same job for cheaper. Now, here we have a situation where we need you to be successful. Not that we want you to be, it would be nice if the next generation, we have to have all of you successful. And I'm going to tell you why. Because now, for the first time in America, we have more 65-year-olds than 18-year-olds. So please, help us pay for our old age. But let me tell you, the excesses of my generation are my generation, are screwing all of you. We are. And you need to hold us accountable. Because every second in the United States, your government, us, people my age, we're spending $71,000 a second. Okay? $71,000 a second. How are we going to continue this? We won't be able to. In 7 years, the Medicare Trust Fund will be empty. In 7 years, the Social Security Trust Fund is gone, meaning that we will double seniors' poverty to 24%. There'll be 24% cuts. Last year, we finished the year at $37 trillion in debt, and in 10 years, we will double it. It is my sincere concern that we're going to have to insist that this insanity stops so that you can get your fair share, what you deserve, a piece of the American pie. We can do it. You can do it. All right. For every dollar we take in, now we spend $1.43. Let me say that again. For every dollar we take in taxes, we spend $1.43. We are about to lose our sovereignty. We're giving it away to the financial markets. It is immoral. It is immoral, and we must change this. Now, the elites see us as mass irrationality that need to be controlled and manipulated. The government techniques are the same, only the crisis changes. The Red Scare of the Soviet Union was a crazy lie that they told students here in Berkeley at that time. They said, if there's a nuclear attack, duck and cover. Get under your desk. You'll be fine. I wonder how that worked out in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In California in 2020, Gavin Newsom, the governor of this great state, said, yes. He said, mask up between bites. Mask up between bites. He said that. What an idiot. When they show you who they are, believe them, and Gavin Newsom is a gigantic buffoon. And he shows you. All right. Now, there is an attack. We're going to talk about this with my good friends who will be coming out here shortly. I want to introduce in a minute. There is an attack on Western civilization, and the United States really is the last bastion of hope for the free world. It really is. It really is. Let me just, Western civilization is under attack. Western Europe is bringing in people that hate them, and they're bringing them into their culture that they hate. And as Charlie Kirk said, if you do not assimilate, it is an invasion. And that's what we are experiencing. That Western Europe is gone. So, I would like to just tell a quick story about what happened to me, about a famous actor. And I want to tell you the story because I want to leave it with hope. Because I have great hope and I have great faith. And like my Father Paso, who's a terrific priest from Omaha, and he lives in Scottsdale, he said to me, Jesus already won. This is just a mop-up mission. Okay? The battle is won. But we must be on guard, all of us. We must fight. We must be courageous. And thank you for being courageous, each and every one of you, for coming here this evening. Thank you for your courage. Courage is required. Now, I was at a very liberal place for the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. I was in New York, and I got about the same response. But I wasn't there to talk about politics. I mean, I went there for 5 years. It was my, part of their history. They're part of my history, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I'm there, and, I didn't want to talk about politics or whatever, And they sat me next to Al Sharpton. It's like, well, how are you still alive, And then, and 2 rows in front of me, I see Robert De Niro. I know. Well, Robert De Niro hates Trump, and I love Trump. I mean, he's not perfect, but there's only been one perfect person in the history of the world. That's Jesus Christ. So, we all fall short of the glory of God. So anyways, but I don't want to bug him. I don't want him to I don't want him to ruin my night. I don't want to ruin his night. But hey, put your phones down for this one. Come on, be here for now. Just turn it down. Come on. Let's not, I'll put this on the internet later, okay? Please. Just be here. Be here for now. All right? You, put it down. Put it down. Put it down. Be here now. You're here. Be here. So anyway, at the end of the show, they do a very gracious thing where they invite everybody who's ever been a cast member, anybody ever hosted the show, they invite us all onto the stage for one final bow. It's nice because we're probably never going to be there again. Some of the older people are going to die or whatever, So, whatever. So, but the problem is the show's been on the air for 50 years. So we all get up. Everybody in the crowd's a cast member or used to host the show, so we all get up and we start making our way to the stage, and Will Ferrell's pushing me. Oh, jeez, Will, come on, dude. This De Niro's right there. I don't want to, please, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with this right now. So we start making our way to the stage, it's really crowded, and finally I'm right behind De Niro, right behind him, and then finally somebody pushes me into De Niro, and De Niro turns around and he's like, Schneider, how could you support that schmuck? Trump is a schmuck. How do you support that? He's turning the whole country into schmucks. Schneider, I thought you were smarter than that. And I swear to God, the only thing I could think of at the time was, Robert De Niro knows who I am. I swear to God, I looked right at him and I said, I love you. I love you. He's like, no, I really love you. I love you. I swear to God, he looked right at me and went like, okay. That's the only way to handle this. We're never going to be able to out-cancel the cancel culture. They're better at it than us. It's got to be through love. You don't get a reward. You don't get a reward for loving your brother. You don't. You're supposed to. You get a reward for loving your enemy. Somebody who wants to destroy you. The people outside, you got to love them. And I love them. I love them. I wish them the best. I hope they come around. I do. Now, Charlie Kirk loved all of you and loved this country. Now, if I would have had time, I would have said to Mr. De Niro, Mr. De Niro, God picks people that we wouldn't pick. God is a terrible casting agent. But God, who are we to question God? God has his reasoning, whatever. It's his reason. It's his reasoning. I said, look at King David. King David, a murderer, an adulterer, someone who coveted another man's wife. And God's like, yeah, I know. But he's my guy. God. That's who I want. He has the qualities of a leader that I need. The same thing with Moses. Look it up in the Bible. Moses, a stuttering shepherd. A stuttering shepherd.
Yeah, I know. He's got a little problem with his dad, but yeah, that's who I want.
But he stutters.
Yeah, I know, but he's my guy. Come.
And if you think about it, that's why it took 9 different plagues before Moses was able to explain to the Pharaoh in Egypt what he wanted. Let my people go, ga, ooh, fire flood, fire flies, famine, locust. Get that Jew out of here, he's spitting all over me. And it's the same thing with Donald Trump. God, you're like, hey, God.
Trump's my guy. That's who I want.
What?
Yeah, that's who I want.
But God, he's been really disrespectful to women.
Yeah, I know, but that's my guy.
But he's called women pigs.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I love you. 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 I do. God bless you. May God continue to bless each and every one of you. I love you. Coming to the stage right now. Come on out, guys. Let's get this out of here. Come on out here. Come into the stage. Come on out right now. This is my buddy, Professor Peter Boghossian, author of How to Have Difficult Conversations. Come on in there. And my good friend, Oxford professor, author of Free Speech and the End of Woke, my good friend, Andrew Doyle, Dr. Andrew Doyle. And of course, you know Frank Turek. So we want to answer your questions, and nothing is off limits. We are here for you. This seat is, of course, for Charlie. And Charlie, I'm sorry, but I'm going to put my jacket near you. So, okay,
if you disagree, you go to the front of the line.
If you disagree, you go to the front of the line. Okay. This guy's not going to disagree a lot. I see a Trump hat. Yes. Okay. Somebody coming? You can do it. Yes. I love your hat, man.
Thank you. I really respect what you said about all the love thing as an Antifa person, so thank you, Rob. My question for you is,
yes.
Last month you tweeted out that children didn't get sick when you were a kid, so there weren't children's hospitals.
Yeah,
So my question is, does your wife firewall block Google, or are you just unfathomably retarded?
That's a good question. I don't think I'm extremely retarded, but I would say my level of retardation is about your level of intolerance. It's about the same. Yeah. And it's interesting. I'm going to stand up for this, since you're standing up like that, is this. And I like your goofy hat. It really is going to do well. You're never going to get laid, but it's a beautiful hat. Here's the thing. 54, according to a 2013 statistic, 54% of Americans' children at least suffer from one chronic illness. That's over half. And if you don't care about that, then you don't care about the future of this country. We have children now with rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, childhood diabetes. We have children with chronic inflammation. We have peanut allergies. They never used to, when I was a kid on a plane, they never said, sorry, can you take your peanuts? We have a peanut. We did because we didn't have peanut allergies. So what I said with that tweet was to get morons to come and ask questions like you did. Thank you very much. Because let me tell you, if you don't realize that Americans are sick and that we need to get our Americans healthy, then you are part of the problem. And I will say that when I was a kid, yes, there were, but there was not a proliferation of children's hospitals like there is now. And I guarantee you, and there was not a proliferation of sick children and obesity. In this country, we have 40% of Americans are obese. Obese, the technical term meaning that their body fat is obvious. We can see it. But if we don't get healthy, nothing else will matter. So thank you for your question.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Good luck with everything. I wish you well.
Hello, Mr. Schneider.
Thank you.
My name is Jackie Jones.
Hi.
I am a current UC Berkeley student. I am actually the co-president of one of the comedy clubs on campus.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I grew up watching you, all of your movies, and now I've actually just transitioned to watching you more on Kill Tony. So I've seen you on like a very PG level with Big Daddy, and now I'm hearing you with Tony Hinchcliffe saying things I probably shouldn't say right now.
Yeah.
But,
I know. Charlie hated my language. He hated it. He told me that too. But he still loved me and still invited me because he knew that I was getting laughs. But thank you.
And I guess my question for you is that as a young female comedian, I think I wouldn't consider myself someone that gets easily offended. I think a lot of people tell me I should be getting offended for things that are jokes that are made at my expense that I, as a woman, right? I think they're funny, right? But I want to know, are there things that we shouldn't be joking about, something that I could joke about that you couldn't, or...
You're right. I don't think that there's any rules set in stone, but I do think that if you do a joke and people don't laugh, that you get it. But I also think it's our job to challenge people. I always say, like, comedy and society and cultural mores they're shifting. They don't stay, it's like the tides. They go up and they go down. And it's our job to find out where it's going up and then to push it a little bit. If I don't challenge my audience, then I'm not doing my job. Like tonight, I really think that some of that stuff, we have to challenge it. We have to do. Like that gentleman challenged me. And what he did by calling me a retard was he brought me to defend that position and explain something. And it was true. I was incorrect in a statement, but I'm glad that it brought up people talking because I was able to talk about, just like Frank talked about earlier, we're able to get to discussions by stuff, sometimes we're making a mistake that we can talk about, and millions of people saw that tweet because what I was able to get to is that we have sick children, and we have to really worry about the health of all of you people. And so, but yeah, I think there's stuff that is too far, but you got to push things a little bit. And you'll find out like really great comedians who are the polar opposite of my political, like Sarah Silverman. She would say things and she would couch them, and I learned from her. Crazy liberal. I love her. She's a crazy liberal. And she would do things like saying, I would never say a racist joke because I think it's awful. And then she would do it. But she would get the audience to be an accomplice. Louis C.K., whether you like him or not, he's a genius. He's able to talk about horrible things because he gets the audience to question their own sense of morality through his own lack of morality. He attacks himself, and then we all laugh and question it. So in that sense, I think you should go for it. Don't be afraid to push things. Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Schneider, may I shake your hand?
Yes, come on up here. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you, come up here and shake my hand. You, Antifa. You come up here. Come up here. Seriously. Get up here and shake my hand. Come here. Come up here. Come here. I wish you all the best. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. All right? I love you. I do. I do. Okay, next question.
Hi, Mr. Schneider. Hi, everyone up there. I'm the chapter president at San Francisco State. And I know...
Yeah. I couldn't get into Berkeley either.
We're Asian, so we're supposed to be here, but... But my question is, I know it's your alma mater, so I was wondering what it was like to go to San Francisco State back in the day, and also how do you assess, this is for all of you, but how do you assess the climate when it comes to political speech? I know everyone has some capacity of involvement.
Well, Andrew, will you tell us what's happening in England right now? And you could talk about speech. That'll be great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because Rob mentioned that I'd written a book called Free Speech and Why It Matters. And in that book, I mentioned UC Berkeley as being this bastion of free speech back in 1964. And then I get here and there's tear gas and fireworks and people in riot gear. I'm thinking something's gone slightly wrong. And what are they upset about? We're just having discussions. We're just having conversation. You know, I mean, Rob Schneider. Is it that they don't like the hot chick? Is that what it is? I don't understand. And they're all out there going mad and going crazy. And I see that, and then you fast forward to now, 1964, free speech movement, UC Berkeley. Now, the last survey by FIRE, which is the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, they found that 1 in 3, this was only 2 months ago, 1 in 3 US students now would support the use of violence to prevent certain speakers on campus. So that is a shocking turnaround, isn't it? It's a complete reversal. And what I would say, just to answer Rob's question, because one of the reasons I wanted to speak to you just briefly is that I'd like to send a warning to you from the UK. You know, you talk about this idea of what's going wrong with political discourse. Look at the UK. So at the moment, in the UK, you know, we are arresting...
That's United Kingdom.
Yes, sorry.
I went to San Francisco State.
I thought we were in a university. I thought they would know. I didn't realize Americans do struggle with acronyms. But here, you know, back home in the UK, a recent Freedom of Information request by the Times newspaper, major newspaper, found that the police in the UK, in England and Wales and Scotland, are arresting 12,000 people every year for offensive speech online. What that equates to is roughly 30 a day. That's in the UK at the moment. In addition to that, the police are routinely investigating people for what they call non-crime hate incidents. Right? And what that effectively means is, if I offended you and you phoned up, you could phone the police and say, I perceive that that English person offended me on the basis of my racial or ethnic identity. And a little mark would be by my name recorded by the police in the UK. So think about that. The police are investigating non-crime, which I think is the opposite of their purpose. I think, don't you think? I think the police, it would be like your doctor phoning you up and saying, I hear you're really healthy. What are we going to do? That's the problem with the UK at the moment. We've got the Online Safety Act, which has just gone through, which will affect Americans as well. There are tweets that I can read here that I can't read back in London because they're blocked. And although they say ostensibly it's about protecting children from harmful content, Spiked magazine, which is a magazine I've written for in the UK, recently put out a documentary about the threat to free speech. That is now blocked on X because of the Online Safety Act in the UK. So it does affect, anything you post can affect you. So all I would say is the UK, the home of the Magna Carta 1215, saying that even the king has to subscribe to the rule of law. We had the Bill of Rights, 1689. We had English common law. It's where you guys stole free speech from. You got it from us, right? And we've just forgotten about it. We had the Enlightenment, John Stuart Mill, John Locke, John Milton, the three Johns, right? And we've let it all go. So what I'm saying to you in the US, with lots of people trying to push for an amendment to the First Amendment, saying that the First Amendment shouldn't cover hate speech, even though no one can define that. All I'm saying is if the UK can lose it, then so can you. Be very careful.
Very good. San Francisco State, an incredible experience. I had a great time there. And I got to say that I learned a lot. And I wish I would have spent more time there, but I got on Saturday Night Live and I had to leave. Sorry. Next question.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for being here. My question is for Pastor Turek. My name is Jacob Ellis, and I'd like to address something that's in the Turning Point USA world. Wasn't addressed tonight, but I do disagree with it, if that's okay.
Please.
All right. So, Pastor Turek, as a Christian, I can deeply sympathize with you in the freedoms that you talk about Christ gives us to forgive our enemies. We saw that with Kirk, right, in front of hundreds of millions of people, saying Christ forgives even this murder of my husband. However, I also can stand with you and say Romans 13 does give the state the authority and the obligation to execute justice for crime, right? So we can see that balanced in Charlie's death. Now, that being said, I think many Christians in this room, we all can agree that our land is rife with child sacrifice, right, through abortion. It's an issue we have that we need to use the power of the gospel to overcome. So as a pastoral mentor in Charlie's life, how would you reconcile this biblical justification, eternal grace in Christ, while also having justice, with Charlie's well-documented position against the abolitionist position of abortion, namely including criminal penalties for mothers who choose to terminate their children after this law is passed?
Charlie and I talked about this.
Praise God.
We would love to have an abolitionist position, but we would rather save some babies rather than none.
Understand?
So
Could I
that's
offer
the
you
position.
Okay. I did bring a few books I would love to get into your hands if that's okay. It mainly kind of talks through some of the practical ways we can accomplish both those.
First of all, I appreciate your passion on this issue, but if the law tries to go too far where the public won't accept it at this point, if you try and go to a complete abolitionist position, you're not going to be able to save any babies. And we need to save some rather than none. And by the way, even the Bible uses an incremental approach. Jesus in Matthew 8 and Matthew 19 says that Moses gave you a certificate of divorce, but it was not that way from the beginning. And why did he give a certificate of divorce? Because your hearts were hard.
Yes, sir.
So there's a difference between the goal and the strategy to get to the goal. We share the same goal, but we're not going to get there right now.
If I may, I hear that contrast because divorce, Jesus directly talks about it, but nowhere in the New Testament does he tell us to compromise on child sacrifice. And I think that's something as Christians we must put.
We're not compromising. We're trying to save some babies rather than save none. That's all. But yeah, I'm happy to look at it.
Interestingly,
thank you.
that in Iran, they support women's right for abortion here in America, yet they would never do that to their own people. Next question.
Hi, my name is Mark Bruceman. I'm actually the author of a website about homosexuality in the ancient world, in Bible and religion. It's called the Born Eunuch's homepage. And in that chapter we were just talking about Matthew 19, there's a verse in which Jesus talks about people who are born eunuchs from their mother's womb. I read that verse back in '91, and that set me on a lifetime of, well, it set me on a decade of looking for proof that eunuch, what we call a eunuch, could actually be perfectly intact and simply have no lust for the opposite sex, a man who had no arousal with women. The ancient world made that distinction. They distinguished between men who were, or people who had no lust and no arousal with women versus men who were aroused by women, and the latter were the actual men. So when we look at
where are you going with this?
Because when you look at Leviticus, there's no prohibition of homosexuality in Leviticus or in Paul. It is a prohibition of men who have sex with women bottoming for other people.
Okay, where are you going with this?
What I'm saying is there is no prohibition on homosexuality in the Bible. Where we get the prohibition on sex outside of marriage comes from a passage in Plato's Dialogue on Laws.
Okay.
7 pages in which he says you use religion.
Okay, let Frank answer the question.
Okay, thank you.
Most qualified.
Yeah, I think if you look at Romans chapter 1, Paul talks about indecent acts. But we're not going to totally exegete the passage here because it's been exegeted for 2,000 years.
No, it hasn't.
Okay, well, we'll have to agree to disagree, but thank you. Move on.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I did not have eunuch as a question in my mind that was going to come up tonight, but that's why God delights in variety. Yes, next question.
So this question I have for Dr. Turek. I see a lot of the nonsense that Candace Owens is spewing online about how maybe Trump or Erica were involved in Charlie's assassination. I listened to the Steve Day show on the Daily, and a couple weeks ago he had an episode where he was addressing what he calls the just asking questions crowd, perpetually just never looking for answers. And he laid out some possibilities for Candace's motivations. Either she's seeking attention, demonically possessed, or maybe she's a psyop that's meant to fracture our coalition. So my question to you is, what do you think her motivation is, and how should we respond when confronted by people who believe in some of these crazy conspiracies about Charlie's death?
I've done several podcasts on this recently, and I don't know what her motivation is. I don't try and judge motivations. But let me just say a couple things. Anything's possible. But if you're going to suggest someone's guilty, you need evidence. And she doesn't have it. A dream that Charlie came to her in a dream and told her that he had been betrayed. That's not evidence, okay? Maybe it could be somehow if there's other corroborating evidence, but there isn't any. And my friend Mikey McCoy's getting death threats now. Mm-hmm. I'm getting people emailing me, you never know what can happen to you. You need to repent. Of what?
Yeah.
Stop insinuating people are guilty. Ask as many questions as you want, but do not cross that line into you're guilty when you have no evidence for it. You know what I could say right now? I could say that Candace Owens, I think Candace Owens is the real killer.
Yeah.
And she's a real killer because Charlie stopped inviting her places. And she thought that if she could get rid of Charlie, maybe she'd be president. And she's doing all this to divert attention from her being the real killer. That's possible.
But you have no evidence.
But I have no evidence, and I'm not suggesting that. I'm simply saying that seems to me what she's doing to other people.
Exactly.
We have to be careful. We have to be I'm sorry? You can go ahead. I know.
Well, we do things a little. If you want a seat at the adult table, you're more than welcome to wait in line. But we don't yell. We don't shout.
Let's move forward. I will say we have to be careful.
If you disagree, you come to the front of the line.
There is temptation. There is temptation, and there's the temptation, and the devil will have that temptation to get spun out in a particular way. And to get spun out in a way that is unhealthy for you. I'm sorry?
Yeah, all right, we're done. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
let's
you.
go to the next question.
Would you be able to sign my hat, please?
Yes, sir, I will. I'll do it later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, next.
Hi, Mr. Schneider. My name is Abbas Ben-Hamida. I'm a current freshman here at Berkeley.
All right, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, sir. Recently, I've become deeply concerned about the loss of the First Amendment and free speech. So I've been wondering, how can the United States continue to protect the First Amendment, especially on college campuses, when cancel culture and corporate influence limit our ability to speak out? And how can people think that Donald Trump wants to uphold our amendments if the Trump administration continues to support the suppression of those speaking out against the genocide happening in Gaza?
Wow, there's a lot there. First of all, it is a mistake to silence speech of any kind, and it is a mistake from the Trump administration to silence. It's also a mistake, even though I find it abhorrent, burning the American flag is still a form of expression, and while I find it awful and tasteless, it's not up to me, it's not up to my taste, and I don't think it's up, and that would never uphold in the courts. Yes, free speech is the speech that we don't like and the speech that the government doesn't like. And we have to, what the Biden administration did was the Biden administration, day one, censored Bobby Kennedy, the first person that they censored. And we don't clamp down, and they used the tech companies to do that. And all this came out. So, yes, we have to be able to express our opinions. And it was also a mistake for the head of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, to criticize Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, that's a private company. If they want to fire him, keep him on, that's fine. I think it's a broadcast license, so they can't directly lie, but he could have asked for a simple apology or something. But I think we have to be very careful about that. And the Republicans, and I could say the conservative group, we have to be careful that we don't fall into the same trap where we use censorship like the Democrats did.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure, are the people, we don't have much time left, but are the people, the next 5 or so people, you disagree with things we've said on the stage, right? Yes?
One more point, sir.
Yes, sir.
We don't have enough, I'm sorry, we don't have enough time because we really want to get, we have a long line out there.
Okay. Is it the last thing you want to say?
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like it's really sad to see a country where, both sides want to, limit our ability to speak out against.
But we have the First Amendment. You got to fight for it. You got to fight for it on campus as well. You have to insist on it. We have to insist that really the cornerstone of free speech on campus is Berkeley. You got to return to that. You have to insist on it, and you have to make sure that the people who limited the number of students to come here, that someone gets held to account for that. Find out who limited that.
Thank you so much, sir. Nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm a little bit nervous, but it's
okay
to talk with you guys. I just wanted to say it's very similar to the gentleman's question on freedom of speech on campus.
Yes.
I could be wrong. I don't want to be spreading misinformation, but I believe my chancellor, Richard Lyons, is here. If you want to call him out and just say, hey, bud, what's the deal with freedom of speech on campus? We're not having dissenting opinions coming in. They stopped the protesters from being allowed to buy tickets so we could have a back and forth discussion. And I think that hurts our movement,
It hurts everybody's movement.
Yeah, it hurts everybody. I mean, what was said in some of the materials earlier is not allowing opposing views hurts the very fabric of a healthy society.
Absolutely.
And so Richard Lyons is here, and I'm just sort of curious what.
Well, where is Richard? Where are you? Richard, are you still here?
I mean, I don't mean to be so.
No, Richard, first of all,
outspoken,
I would like to invite you on stage and to speak with us. Richard, if you're here. Not in a confrontational way.
Come on, Rich.
If you're here, you're invited to come to the stage and speak on behalf of yourself, because I don't think it's fair for me to speak for you. But
Also known as Dick Lyons. Sorry.
All right, but if you would like to come to the stage, you're more than welcome to speak your piece. I would just like to say that we need to hold people accountable for their free speech as well. If you say something outrageous, there's going to be repercussions for it. Someone may call you an a-hole or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, this campus, more than any other campus in the United States, has the foundational principle of free speech and the student body uprising for free speech. And it was free speech that was not Republican or Democrat, conservative. It was free speech for everybody. Anybody want to talk about that?
Well,
Peter?
Can I add something to that? I mean, a lot of the people, there's a really simple solution. If you disapprove of a speaker or you don't want to go and see a show, don't buy a ticket. And then you've made that decision for yourself. And we see there's a lot of empty, this is a sold out event and there's a lot of empty seats here. So what has happened is those individuals outside setting off tear gas and the rest have made a decision on behalf of other people, and they've said paternalistically, we're going to decide what you can and cannot go to, what words you can and cannot hear. Yes. That is called authoritarianism. That's what that is. And those people outside here are organizing under the umbrella of Antifa, anti-fascism. Now, the problem with that, and I'm aware, I'm sensitive to the fact that there are multiple definitions of fascism and that there are disputes within academia over the precise definition. But I'll tell you one thing. The consistent feature of all fascistic regimes is the suppression of alternative viewpoints through violence. That's the key thing that they all share. So if you are a member of Antifa using violence to shut down speech you disagree with, guess what? You're kind of going along with the fascist playbook there.
Could I add to that, just to clarify? So, thank you. So when Richard Lyons has, and the university has protesters who are protesting for Palestine, for instance, different cause, violently assaulted by police officers, would that be considered Antifa necessarily because it's a suppression of their freedom of speech? Like,
freedom of speech is all speech. We define it. However, violence is violence and it's illegal.
But if it's peaceful?
If it's peaceful, then you are allowed to protest. However, if it is a private university or a university that they can make their own rules. This is a state university, and a state university must allow protests of all sorts, or we don't have free speech. That's what free speech is. And let me tell you, free speech isn't just your right to say something. It's the right of somebody else to hear it. And if we hear all our ideas, then we can come to some place. Because I think, just like Franklin Roosevelt, he believed that the American people would make the right choice, will make the right decision, or the good people if they hear everything, including the bad stuff. I need to hear the bad stuff sometimes, so I'm willing to hear it. But let's get the next person. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
This will be the last question.
Oh, really? We should get to a couple more. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. We're going to do a few
Can
more.
we do a few more?
Yeah, we'll do a few
Particularly among, I really want people who disagree to come up. Most sincerely say that.
All right.
All right, go ahead, son.
All right, so my name is Mason. I'm a 13-year-old boy. So I want to get into politics when I'm older, and I'm a Christian. What advice do you have that I can blend those two?
I'll say what John Adams said. John Adams, who was a doctor, who was an attorney, and he was a lawyer, he was an incredible, and he was the second president of the United States. He thought the highest thing that you could do was to serve as a politician, to serve the people. So thank you for wanting to do that. You'll be a good one.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I have a question for all four of you. In America, and I assume so in England, we have a problem with veterans and homelessness and mental illness. What are we doing as a society to help them? On the left, I see disrespect towards veterans in our culture where men can't talk and talk about their feelings, as our military is majorly men. But on the right, we make, and abortion is a big issue, and I disagree with abortion in general, but what are we doing to keep the people that are already here, that have fought for our freedoms here and on this earth?
Well, we have to take care of our veterans, otherwise this country's soul will rot. We need to take care of people who are protecting this country. So that we're doing better. This administration specifically is doing better, but we have to help. I mean, there used to be in World War I, there was a thing called shell shock, you know, and then it was like, you know, now it's down to post-traumatic stress syndrome. These are really tough things that these people come back from what they've had to endure. These are your neighbors. And I would just like to say this too, slight off subject. We need to figure out a way to include everybody to do what they can do for this country, not what this country can do for you. We need to put in a voluntary system of university students, and we need 2 years of your life. Dedicated. You want to do the military, you want to serve overseas, you want to help people. We need you to do that. We can't just have a group of people that's selective service and then just send people over. Everybody. So when there is a conflict internationally, everyone's son and daughter is potentially going to be sent there. And that will make us all think twice about some other war that we don't want to get tangled in. Thank you.
As I want to mention one thing as a veteran, and that is every country has to have both a force that will protect them from evil outside the country. That's what the military is about. And a force that will protect people from evil inside the country. That's the essential primary purpose of government, to protect innocent people from evil and punish wrongdoers. Biblically, that's Romans 13. James Madison, who wrote our Constitution, said if men were angels, no government would be necessary. We need a government, and a good government, to protect innocent people from evil. Here's my question to you. I don't know the answer to it. We have limited resources in this country to take care of people. Are we spending more money on people who shouldn't be here than we are on our own veterans?
Yeah, like gender reaffirming care.
Well, not just that. I'm talking about illegal immigration.
In this state. Now,
so that shouldn't be. Every country should take care of their own first. Yeah. That's why we have countries. That's why God set up borders.
Yeah. Thank you. Now, Peter.
Yeah, I have a very quick book recommendation by Michael Schellenberger, as it's appropriate, called San Francisco. And he lays out, if you haven't read it, it's a phenomenal book. It's evidence-based, and he talks about homelessness and drug addiction. And one of the things he talks about is a principle, shelter first, housing earned. So you have to incentivize sobriety. But if you want a point of contact to read about evidence-based solutions, that's my recommendation.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate your
time. If I can ask, I want Peter, if you could talk to us about, because he has a beautiful system. I want you to think about this, how to have difficult conversations. And that really was, because you're going to have difficult conversations with the people outside here who are still waiting for us to leave. How are we going to have difficult conversations, Peter? And how do we handle it?
Yeah,
Seriously.
thanks. So I'm preparing myself for the onslaught of booze I'm about to get for this. But in 2013, I wrote a book, A Manual for Creating Atheists. Oh, wow. Okay, that wasn't what I was expecting. And I walked backstage here, and I walked in to I don't know, my new friend Frank, who wrote, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. And Frank came immediately over to me and shook my hand and said, Peter, it is so nice to meet you.
Peter, for those of you that don't know, Peter, maybe you could tell this audience a little bit about what you do, because
it's amazing.
It is amazing what Peter does. I'm a Christian, he's an atheist, but he will tell you what he's doing right now and has been doing for several years, and it might shock you. Would you tell them what's going on,
And we can all
Peter?
learn from this and how to have difficult conversations.
Yeah,
how far will you go? And that's a beautiful thing.
I wrote the book, How to Have Impossible Conversations, but I want to answer your question directly. So I'd like to leave people with some very specific tools that they can have to have better conversations. But before I want to do that, I want to throw an idea out to you. I think that there's a schism in the right now. I think there's a schism about Israel, about Groypers. I think there's contentious conversations and conversations that need to be had. I have the following suggestion to you. think about the problem is not what it was 13 years ago. Again, if you said to me you're going to be on stage with Frank Turek at a conservative event primarily with Christians, I would have thought I had some kind of head trauma. But I suggest the following to you. Frank and I have far more in common. We have something fundamental in common. And that's we believe in, we want to conserve, as Thomas Sowell said, Rob quoted Thomas Sowell, we want to conserve the Republic. I believe that there's objective truth. Frank believes there's objective truth. We disagree on what that is, but we have conversations about that. So I want to throw this out. The first order of business is to listen. You got to figure out what someone actually believes. And I think in the heyday of the New Atheist movement, I was guilty of that. I was guilty of that because I was so certain that I was correct. I'm still an atheist, but I think I was really kind of a dick to people in the way that I treated them. And I think if I could go back now, I would give myself the following advice. Really listen to people when they tell you something. The second thing I would tell myself is repeat back to them. This is called Rappaport's first rule. Repeat back to them so that you understand. And what you're looking for them is when they say, that's right. That's right. So you need to make sure that you understand. The key principle in all of this is you have to be willing to revise what you believe. So we go, my friend Reed and I, we go all around the world and we have impossible conversations with people, literally about things that are pretty grueling and ghastly, trans being chief among those, and now we're talking about Islamic immigration. But we first try to figure out what people believe, and then we ask them, what would it take to change your mind? You know, Rob asked the question, what do you want? It's an old question, ancient pedigree. What kind of life do you want to lead? What would it take for you to change your mind? I always, at 59, that's one of the first questions I ask people. I figure out, okay, what do they believe? Have I understood this? I repeat it back to them, and I might say, like, how confident are you on that on a scale from 1 to 10, or what would it take to change your mind? It's a deceptively simple way to have a conversation to put people at ease. And I just want to say one more thing. How tragic it is that we are here and these people are setting off fireworks and threatening police and they're arresting people. It's a stain on the promise of America. It is. And it doesn't matter if you're a believing Christian or if you're an atheist. Those things are less relevant now. And what's relevant is we have genuine civilizational threats that an honest person who is sincere with themselves has to look at. So my first suggestion to you would be, if you know someone of a different faith, I would suggest you do what Frank did to me tonight. You say, hey, so nice to meet you, and shake their hand. And then you listen to them. What do they believe? It's just like the disagreement that you had the same goal. Jim?
For several years, Peter toured universities with Corey Miller, who is the head of Ratio Christi, which is a Christian apologetics campus group. And they were going to these campuses to show that an atheist and a Christian could be on the same side of free speech and free expression. And some people oppose that. And they're still opposing this guy. Can you believe this? And you know whose fault it is? It's our fault, Christians, because we haven't spoken up enough. That he has the right to express his view, and he does, and you all do.
Thank you. Thank you. And can I just ask, Peter, what has been the most surprising thing when you go to different campuses and the stuff that you discovered, and asking people how far would you meet in the middle, or how strongly do you feel about this? What are some of the biggest surprises that you felt on campus that you've experienced?
The first thing is I really do believe that what Aristotle writes in the first line of the Metaphysics, all people want to know, all people desire to know. They want to know what's true. And that's my starting assumption. I have never questioned it even about the people outside. I think they want to know what's true, but I think they do think that they know it's true. And that's why they're not in here right now, because if they were, they'd be at the front of the line asking difficult questions. I mean, maybe that's a form of some kind of ideological capture. But one of the most hopeful things that I've found is when people actually listen to each other, and again, the tool is so simple. Listen to someone and ask them, don't put the burden on them. Don't say, do you get that? Because when you say, do you get that, put the burden on yourself. Am I being clear? Did I make that clear? It's a simple thing. But the most promising thing I've seen is people who have fundamental disagreements having honest conversations about really tough issues.
This has just hit me. He's the atheist Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Do you notice that? He wants to have a conversation, and if you disagree with him, that's fine.
No, but there is love in what he's saying, because it's an openness and an honesty for the truth. And that is love to me, an openness and honesty. Because what Peter really wants is he wants people to not be a prisoner to their own passions, to their own prejudices, and to be stuck in something where they can expand their knowledge and expand themselves and get out of a prison of their own making. And that's what I get from you. Thank you.
And I just want to say something to the organizers here. They've been absolutely fantastic. Charlie sponsored many of my events. My last texts from Charlie were incredibly supportive. And I just want to say that I'm incredibly grateful for what Turning Point has done, for the fact that you know that I have different beliefs than you, and you've been so gracious and so kind, and I'm incredibly grateful for that, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. Now, we'll take one last question, and I want to, and do you want to say anything, Andrew, that I think...
I mean, what I would absolutely love is for someone to come up to the front of this queue and explain why free speech is a bad thing worth opposing. But what I notice is the people who believe that don't generally want to articulate it, they just want to throw shit about. Which is a bit of a shame.
Yes, your question?
Hi, thank you guys so much for having the courage to be here. It's truly an honor to be in your presence while you protect free speech. My name is Nat. I'm in my 3rd year here, and I think I entered college with a very politically open mind. I was willing to engage in conversation with those who were so much more firm in their beliefs than I was, and I acknowledged any bias that was embedded into my upbringing so that I could have a very open-minded discussion and learn from my peers. But it seems that when I acknowledge the fact that I'm uneducated about politics, or that I'm not so sure on a certain topic, or maybe that I can see both sides on a particular issue, I'm met with ostracization. I'm never accepted for admitting that I don't know anything or everything, right? And I'm sure this is something a lot of my peers can relate to, and especially you, being a member of Hollywood, can relate to. Just the outcasting that gets brought upon us when we acknowledge the fact that we don't know everything. Right? And you've made it clear, all of you have demonstrated the heart you have for those who disagree with you, which I think is very noble and open-minded. So I want to ask, in a society that puts us down for not being so aggressive with our beliefs, how can we collectively rise? How can we learn to not butt heads with those that we disagree with, but instead shake hands?
You got to keep trying. And again, Peter, that's a really good Peter question.
I'd love to take that question. So whenever you encounter someone like that, invariably the problem is not you. So a couple of months ago, I was driving my buddy's car, and I don't know, a guy thought I cut him off or something. I didn't think I did, and he leans out the window and he gives me an incredibly nasty look, and then he rolls down the window. And he goes like this, and then I rolled the window, and he said, "I'm gonna kick the shit out of you." And I said, "Oh boy, I'd really hate that." And that was it. The whole situation was completely diffused. He thought I was a retard, and he moved on. So almost invariably the problem was with them. But I just want to give you a practical solution of something that you could do in that situation. Oh, we're getting the must wrap up thing. A practical solution to this. The first thing I would do is say, "Oh, wow, thank you. That's really interesting. I didn't know that. How confident are you?" And make sure you know the claim. On a scale from 1 to 10. So scales is it's not a trick, it's a great strategy. So ask them how confident. And if they say, 9, ask them, "Oh, why aren't you a 10? But anyway, ask them what it would take to change their mind. If they say nothing, then ask them this question. What would you say about someone I asked on the other side if I asked them that question, what would it take to change your mind? And they said nothing. Hopefully they'll get the idea that they're an ideologue. But invariably, it's not you. And if you just always remember this, be the coolest cucumber in the room. Always. and then ask that question. Oh, how confident are you in that? What would it take to change your mind? Oh, and remember that posture. Oh, thanks, I didn't know that. Most of the time, there's something very, very quick story. There's something called the illusion of explanatory depth. It's fascinating. It's from a great study where a guy asked people if they knew how toilets worked. You heard about this? Yeah. And most people would say, yes, of course I know how toilets work. But when you ask them how toilets actually work, nobody has not even the faintest clue of how they don't know the name of anything. So even asking someone to explain how healthcare, immigration, the cost of the border, the size of the border, how much the Border Patrol agents make, even asking someone simple questions like that, it's very simple to I'm getting the wrap up. But so real quick, all of those begin with targeted questions. They're never an assertion. They're never a statement of fact. They're always questions.
Yeah, key question is, if you were wrong, would you want to know it?
Wow, that's good, yeah. And, you know, it's okay to be the one guy that other people think's crazy. It's okay. And you know what? As long as you have faith in that, and also come from humility, because you're going to meet bad faith actors, and you're going to meet them in this school, you're going to meet them in life, that people who don't really want to learn anything, and they think they know it all already. But if you start from a place, I don't know, then you're going to grow way more than them, and God bless you, and keep fighting. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. I'd like to thank Professor Peter Boghossian, Dr. Andrew Doyle, the great author, an amazing Christian, Frank Turek. I'm David Spade. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. God bless you.